Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I have learned as I have grown into the person that I am today. And I did not make a video yesterday, so let's catch up on the meditations today. I brought the usual suspects over here, the Melody Beatty books, and A Year of Positive Thinking by Cindy Spiegel. I have to tell you, I, just a couple days ago, went back and started reading Codependent No More again. This is the sister book, The Language of Letting Go. And I forgot how, I knew it, but I guess I kind of had forgotten how profoundly that book had affected me. And I find myself everywhere in it while I'm reading it, and it's so helpful. And if you have never read Codependent No More, I have it linked in my Amazon shop below, but you don't have to buy it from there. You can get it anywhere. You can get it in a used bookstore. You can probably find it at Goodwill. I'm sure they have it at, all kinds of bookstores, Audible, I'm sure as well, Barnes & Noble, things like that. But it is just absolutely so fantastic. And, it starts off talking a lot about people that are codependent in relation to alcoholics and addicts. But it's not just about that. It's about so much more. It's about setting boundaries and really working on yourself to be a healthier version of yourself. And it really is about disengaging and detaching from any connection that you have with anybody in your life, no matter what, because you define your life in connection to them. And it's so fantastic, because what it does is, and all these meditations kind of do this too, it kind of forces you to realize that you are in control of your life alone and nobody else's. And so it throws up a huge mirror in your face and makes you realize the work that I have to do is for me, and the work that I have to do is on me, and all of that work is going to just help me improve my life so that I can have the most amazing life possible. And I'm just rereading it again, it feels like fresh material to me, honestly. It's interesting because 20 some years ago, I read, what's the book by Wally Lamb? She's Come Undone. And it's about grief and loss. And a couple years ago, I reread it. I think it was for the first year that I had Peter's book club, that's now a true crime book club. And I reread it, and it was interesting reading that book, 20 some years later, after I had gone through so much loss, losing my mom, losing several friends of mine, several very dear friends of mine, having lost my aunt and uncle, and then reading that book again, my perception of reading about grief was completely different. And that book had affected me so greatly in my early 20s, but then again, in my late 40s, it had affected me in such a deep and profound way as well. It's kind of the same thing as when I read, I love books and I love to read. It's kind of the same thing for me when I read Catcher in the Rye again. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago. And I hadn't read it in quite some time. And my neighbor's dog in the backyard is, woo! Anyway, can you hear him back there? Anyway, and I reread it, and it's an interesting book to reread in your adulthood. If you've ever read it in your youth, Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger, it's a much different book to read in your adult life than it is to read in your youth. And I had read it, a couple times in between. I would revisit it, in fall, because it's a good fall book to read. But, I think when I was younger, I found so much identification with it. I was like, I identify so much with Holden Caulfield. As I got older, I looked back on it and thought, what a sad way to look at the world. To look at the world in such kind of a pessimistic way, to think that everybody that you're going to come across in life is a phony, And, but I still love the book, but that's kind of how Codependent No More is for me. When I first read it years ago, years and years and years ago, I think I read it in connection to, my mother, obviously, as being an alcoholic, but I also read it in connection to how other people viewed me. And it's interesting reading it this time, and I have revisited it several times in between. But this is the most recent time that I've actually sat down and read it. Not just bits and pieces of it, but read it again. And I did the very first time. And just her definition of codependency and her honesty and her vulnerability to share her own story as well, and the connection that I have to the stories that they share in there. You find it's really about our need to try to control other people. And you might not think that you have this need or this desire, but it comes out in ways that you don't even realize it sometimes. Sometimes our need to control other people comes out in ways that we would never even imagine, you know? So because of that, I think that I'm going to read from The Language of Letting Go today by Melody Beatty. Let's see. He's got something he sees out there or something. Look, I was going to say little guy. He's not a little guy. He's a big guy. But when he sees even just like a squirrel, he goes crazy. He's so funny. Oh, interestingly enough, the meditation today, August 4th, is about vulnerability. I've learned that the more vulnerable I allow myself to be, the more in control of myself I really am. Anonymous. Many of us feel we can only show our strong, confident side. We believe the face we have to show to the world should always be one of politeness, perfection, calm, strength, and control. While it is certainly good and often appropriate to be in control, calm, and strong, there is another side to all of us. That part of us that feels needy, becomes frightened, has doubts, and gets angry. That part of us that needs care, love, and reassurance that things will be okay. Expressing these needs makes us vulnerable and less than perfect. But this side needs our acceptance too. Allowing ourselves to be vulnerable will help us build lasting relationships. Sharing our vulnerabilities helps us. Allowing ourselves to be vulnerable will help us build lasting relationships. Sharing our vulnerabilities helps us feel close to people and helps others feel close to us. It helps us grow in self-love and self-acceptance. It helps us become healing agents. It allows us to become whole and accessible to others. Today I will allow myself to be vulnerable with others when it's safe and appropriate to do so. Such a great meditation, you know, and I think in speaking about vulnerability, I think I got to a point in my life where, as people in recovery, we share so much of ourselves in meetings and stuff. You know, my husband always kind of laughs because he's like, you can meet somebody and get their number, and that night you're talking to them on the phone and you're talking about childhood trauma, you know. But it's true. I mean, that's really who we are, you know. Whereas my husband will get somebody's number, you know, that he meets out, make a new girlfriend, and they'll be talking about their favorite restaurant or what should they wear when they go out, you know, the next time or something. And, you know, but it is true. And I think in recovery we have this kind of sinking ship mentality that we've all been there and we've all gone down, you know, and they say there is no stronger power than two alcoholics or two addicts sharing with each other, you know. And I think that's part of it, is that we become so vulnerable to one another. We really open ourselves up. It takes some time to get there, and then when we do, those of us, you know, that have done the work, those of us that work with sponsors, because sponsors help with that, those of us that have been to counseling and things like that, it really opens you up. I think there was a point when I became too vulnerable, if that makes sense, or allowing everybody in. And maybe that was not a healthy move for me, you know? There were a lot of friends in my life that I would share things with that maybe I felt like I wanted that bond and that connection that quickly, and maybe the trust hadn't been built yet, if that makes sense. And I sometimes got hurt by that, you know, and that's okay. That's okay to get hurt in life. You know, I've learned that, you know, you get hurt, you get back up, and you learn from that mistake, and you go on and you move on, right? But it hurts nonetheless. It didn't stop me from allowing myself to be open and vulnerable with people. And being vulnerable with somebody means sharing truths about yourself, okay? It doesn't mean you dump out your purse like in the Breakfast Club and you show all your cards kind of thing. It doesn't mean that, right? You show everything that you've got and all your problems and all your troubles. You don't just dump them out. It means that you share with people, you know? And when they share something with you, you share something with them. You turn your wounds into wisdom. So when somebody shares something with you and you say, you know what, I've been through something similar, you know, and that's how the healing process really works between people, and it allows you to be there. It allows you to share those insecurities of those things that don't make you feel like the greatest person on the face of the earth, you know? You know, it's interesting to me because my husband and I love RuPaul's Drag Race, so I don't know if you watch it or not, but one of the things they will criticize the queens for on a regular basis is not being vulnerable enough, not allowing themselves to tell their truth, to get really vulnerable about things that they've gone through in their life, you know? And it was interesting because, I don't know if it was last week or the week before, and we're watching the All-Stars right now, they did this thing where it was this sit-down talk show, and they had very serious topics to talk about. And the ones that didn't get it, I was like, you don't really understand, I think, how to just be open to the world, right? And there were a couple of them that shared just some phenomenal stories about things that they had been through. And it was I think that's what it is, you know? I think it's that sharing what you've gone through and showing that you're still here, you know, and that I think that's the human connectiveness of giving other people hope. Sharing your own vulnerability and being open to that is about, the book talks about, building bonds with other people in the world, which other, like, serious bonds with people, you know? And, where, I don't know, you look at somebody else and you go, you get me, you know? That's such a powerful thing, right? It's like when I sit in a meeting and somebody's talking about something and, you know, people are nodding and being like, yeah, I get that, you know? And I think that's a really cool thing. And it's like, okay, there are other people out there that understand me, that get who I am. Especially because much of my life I didn't feel like anybody understood me. I always felt like I was on the outside looking in. You know, even when I was in my own friend groups, I felt like I was on the outside looking in, that I wasn't a part of that. And yet I couldn't say that to people. You know, and one of the things I have to say is, the more vulnerable I've allowed myself to be, the more open I've allowed myself to be with other people and share with them the things like that. Like saying to my friends, like, you guys, when I'm with you, I sometimes feel like I'm on the outside looking in. And they'll say to me, well, what can we do to help that? Are there things that, you know, that's where I got to be able to be vulnerable with my friends and Melissa and Aaron and my husband and share about my social anxiety. And that it was terrifying. And here I was living, not telling anybody how scary that was for me to even have to imagine going to a Halloween party. You know, and then I opened up and I shared it with them. And they were like, well, what can we do to help you? Because we want you to enjoy the best life possible. The people that love you and care about you in this world, to be vulnerable with them, to open up and share with them parts of your life, means that they can help you with that, right? And I think that's, I don't know, it's just, I think that's one of the coolest things about how the world works, you know, and not everybody that you're going to open up to is going to be receiving of that. You know, not everything, and that's what I've had to learn the hard way, you know, is maybe I allowed myself to be too vulnerable with some people that I shouldn't have. But, you know, now I've learned, and I will still be vulnerable with people that I don't really know that well, because I think that's part of the language that I speak. I've learned it over time, you know, and I want to share things with people. I want people to share things with me, you know, and I like to have those deep conversations, those deep intellectual conversations, you know, that I had when I was like, you know, 23 years old, you know, and one of my sober friends would come over and we'd sit on the couch. I didn't have that many in early sobriety, you know, but we'd sit there till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning talking about all kinds of deep stuff, you know. And I think that that's that human connection that we can have. So what a great meditation. I loved that. Allow yourself to be more vulnerable with somebody, even if it's just sharing little things, you know. I think sometimes, like, it's even hard, like, I've had friends of mine that, like, they're so guarded that I didn't even know this for, like, months, right? And then I'll be sharing something and they'll say, well, my mom passed when I was growing up, you know? And I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. Yeah, I don't ever talk about it, you know? And it's like, I think that's part of it. It's like we got to let ourselves bloom, you know? And part of that is allowing ourselves to wake up and share those things that are, like, really, really hard for us to talk about, you know, sometimes. Not with everybody. You know, my last sponsor, or 2 sponsors ago, said to me, he would always say to me, not everything that we're going through, not every thought that we have, do we have to share in a meeting. Not everything do we have to share with all the people around us, but maybe having one person, whether that's a counselor or a sponsor or a good friend or a grandparent or something, that we share things through that we're going through. And that can even be in journaling. That can even be if we have to start with journaling and open up and just, you know, kind of write down what we're going through in a journal. I think that's a good place to start. All right, I am going to read from The Journey to the Heart by Melody Beatty. Let's go to August 4th. My reading glasses. Ow, shoot. I keep on opening my glasses on my skin. Okay. August 4th. Do you guys like when I read 2 meditations in a video, or do you like it when I just keep it to 1? Let me know in the comment section below. All right. Do you like them shorter? Do you like the longer ones? Let me know. Value passion. August 4th, value passion. Value what ignites the flame within you. Value what inspires and interests you. What enrages you. What tickles and exhilarates you. What sparks the fire within. Your strong feelings, what you love or hate, are not wrong. Your passions will lead and guide you in all you want to do. From the tiniest idea to the grandest scheme, what makes your flame burn more brightly is the light shining from above, gently guiding the way. The universe and God will lead and guide you, tell you what to do. The message might come through a story someone tells you, a place someone mentions that they liked, or a problem someone's having trouble resolving that attracts your attention with a bit of extra force. A movie that sticks in your mind. A book you couldn't put down. Something you realize you hate. Something you find you love after all. An idea you find interesting. Something that makes you stop and think. Learn to tell how you react to what you see and hear. That's how you'll learn to listen to what the universe has to say. That place may be the next place you're to go on your path. The idea may be just what you're looking for to help you get unstuck. When you know what you're feeling deep inside, you'll know what you like. If you've grown cold and bored, you can come alive again. Feel whatever you need to feel, and you'll find your passion underneath. If you don't know when you feel sad and alone, you won't know when you feel good. True. Feel all the feelings that come your way. Each one has a lesson for you. And as you release that energy, you'll be releasing passion too. Value your passions in the way you feel. Soon you'll find yourself knowing just what to do and when. Stay open. Keep your fires burning bright. When you recognize what inspires you, you'll be recognizing the light. I love this meditation, and I love the part when it says, if you don't know when you feel sad and alone, you won't know when you feel good. You know, I've said this for years, that something that occurred to me a long time ago was that life is really about the bitter and the sweet, okay? And when I say this, people hear it as bittersweet. Like bittersweet chocolate. Like bitter and the sweet, okay? Like we have to have the down times to have the good times. We wouldn't know the difference if we didn't, right? Which is why it's important to not push those feelings away and to allow ourselves to feel sadness, to feel alone, to feel the tragedies of our heart, to feel breakups, to feel, you know, the passings of friends and family members. It's important to feel that and allow ourselves to feel that, because if we don't, and we don't acknowledge all ranges of emotions, and we won't feel when it's good too, okay? But, you know, I think the thing about passion is interesting. I've had so many things in my life that I'm passionate about, you know? I'm very much like that kid that's like, picks up a guitar and wants to write songs, and then like after an hour gets up and is gonna do a puppet show and then is outside building a fort. I was like that as a kid, I'm like that as an adult. I always have been. I have many, many things that I'm passionate about. The most, I think, is about addiction and recovery, of which I share all the time that I'm very passionate about, you know? And I was talking to a friend of mine last night. We were talking about passion, and his passion was something completely different than this. And, you know, I think sometimes to people, passion gets misconstrued as being, like when you're really passionate about something, it gets misconstrued sometimes as being angry, or being preachy, or being bitchy, or being direct, or being, you know, cruel, or whatever. When what it really is passion, you know? I think sometimes, like on my drama channel, people misunderstand this. Like, I have covered a lot of these people that I talk about for 5 years now, right? And so many of them, I see and I think they have to be, like, I don't care how much money they have, what their houses look like, or whatever. They have to be suffering on such a level that they're so sad and miserable inside because they refuse to do any kind of work. I've met people that hardly have any dimes in their pockets, okay? And they are 100 times happier than all of these people appear to be because they have peace and serenity in their heart, right? And it's not about, at the end of the day, all the superficial things you have. Sure, those things are nice, right? But it's really not about that. It's really about the peace and serenity that you have in your heart. And so, you know, like one of the things I'm very passionate about is that I really want the best for these people, you know? And to this day, I get comments. People are like, you don't really want the best for those people. Well, I do, okay? And I know that that's hard to believe, but that is something that I'm passionate about because I believe that it is a gift that we are all given, okay? From our birth on to be able to have the best life we possibly can, okay? I mean, I'm not talking about like in extreme situations of, you know, where just it is so difficult for us to get by, but I'm talking about most people in life, okay, that have been handed a pretty good deal. It's like when we're miserable or we're sad or we're not appreciative or we're not grateful for our lives, like Cher said in Moonstruck, snap out of it, okay? You're given but one life. Be grateful for it. Do the work, right? It's like for me that we're given this pretty good life, right? And then it's like you can do the extra work to make, like I was like just reading in Codependent and More. I wish I had it over here right now. I was just reading where there was this woman in there telling her story, and she said, I didn't have the money for a therapist or, you know, a counselor, but I had enough money for a book. You know, and I said this on my vlog last night, you know, you can go and you can buy one of these books. You can get them on Audible. You can get them at the library for free. I'm sure many of them are at half-price books or Goodwill or whatever, you know. You don't have to have therapy to want to improve yourself. I go to half-price books, and they've got a whole section on self-help, you know. The library does too, and that's for free. You know what I mean? So it's like we can choose to continue to grow as human beings, and then as we do, we get to enjoy our lives so much more, and I'm very, very passionate about that, you know, because as I have continued to grow, and I've got so much more to go. I mean, I have so much further to go. I don't even have, you know, 1/1,000,000th of it figured out. But I have figured some things out along the way, more than I did 10 years ago or 5 years ago or even a year ago, right? And I feel like, changed for the better in some ways. And I've still got a long way to go, like I said. But the more I change, the more I am able to appreciate the world. And I'm more appreciative of the life that I've been given and the friends and the family that I have and my life and my home and my dogs and my car and everything, you know? It really makes me 10 times, 100 times, a million times more appreciative of the life that I've had. And it makes me want to be a better person, to be able to enjoy that more, and also to be able to pass it on to other people. And so other people can see, hey, there's somebody out there that if you do the work, you do get to actually enjoy life a little bit more instead of just sitting there complaining nonstop about how bad your life is. I did that. It's a waste of time. It's not fun, you know? So today, you know, I'm very passionate about that. I'm very passionate about addiction and recovery, and I'm very, very passionate about wanting everybody to have an opportunity to improve their lives for the better. Why wouldn't we? I say that all the time, you know? Why wouldn't we want that for people? I want that for every one of you out there, you know? And it's right there. It's right there at your fingertips, too. You know, journal, make gratitude lists, buy self-help books. I don't necessarily like that word, but motivational books, inspirational books. Go to a section and see what speaks to you, you know? Maybe your issue isn't addiction and recovery. Maybe your issue isn't codependency. Maybe your issue is that you need to find something creative to do in life. Well, Sark has tons of books about that, you know? Or maybe there's so many motivational books out there. The 4 Agreements that I read last year, you know, Make Your Bed by that guy. There's so many motivational books out there that you can get that will, you know, help you in your life. Or if you have the money to go see a counselor or a life coach or whatever, you know, that too. There's just so many things that we can do to improve our, you know, emotional mental health on a daily basis. Why wouldn't we do that if we had the opportunity to do that? I just don't understand it. And I am passionate about that because I feel like each thing that I do more really just makes my life so much better. And I want more of that. And I want more of that for everybody, you know? I do. So anyway, those were great meditations. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.